A question one could ask about a Raspberry Pi, given all that we've learned about it, is a Raspberry Pi device really an IoT device? Would you consider it to be Internet of Things? So maybe is the answer to that. And that's basically depending on how the Raspberry Pi is used. So similarities, reasons why you might say a Raspberry Pi device is similar to an IoT device. Look, it has network intelligence, which you need for IoT. It has computational intelligence, network connectivity, computational intelligence, meaning it's a processor that talks on a network. It's small and cheap. That's classic. It's very common inside an IoT device. It's cheap relative to a full-on PC or laptop, desktop, something like that. And they're pretty small. It's not super small, but it's pretty small, pretty cheap. And it can interface with sensors and actuators directly via pins, right? Just like Arduino can and just like other IoT devices do. So in those senses, you can say, look, this thing can be an IoT device. Now, differences between a Raspberry Pi is that you could use it in just like a laptop or desktop. You could use it exactly in that way. The interface can be exactly the same as any old PC running Linux on it. So the complexities, and how does that make it not an IoT device? What happens there is that the complexities of the system become visible to the user, right? So the user can sit down there and interact with the computer, with the Raspberry Pi, just like you would with a laptop and desktop, see all the details, right? It's one of the beauties of an IoT device is that you don't see the complexities as a user, right? As a user, it's a simple device. You're driving a car. You don't see all the complexities of the processing going on inside the car. You just hit the gas pedal and turn the steering wheel, and you get the benefits of the processing without having to deal with the complexities. Well, when you sit at that Raspberry Pi, and if you got it plugged into a monitor and a keyboard, then you're actually seeing the complexities. You have to install software on it, update drivers, all the stuff that you have to do with a desktop or laptop. You could have to do with a Raspberry Pi. So when I say maybe it's an IoT device, if you're using the Raspberry Pi like a laptop and desktop, meaning you're sitting at it with a keyboard and a mouse and a screen and working with it just like you would with any desktop PC, desktop or laptop, then I would say no, it's not an IoT device. It's just a substitute for a laptop. But you can also use it in such a way where you're not actually interacting with it directly. Right? So if you say, look, instead of using it this way, I'm going to take the Raspberry Pi and I will connect it to a bunch of sensors, connect it to a bunch of actuators. And then rather than sitting at a keyboard and typing text directly into the Raspberry Pi, I just interact with the sensors, right? Maybe there's a push button and a potentiometer or something like that. I interact with those, and then the Raspberry Pi makes something happen with the actuators. Right? Then I'm using it as an IoT device because I'm not directly interacting with the processor. I'm interacting with the sensors and actuators. Right? So I'm one step removed. Then you would say, yes, it's an IoT device. So Raspberry Pi can be used as an IoT device, but it doesn't have to be. It could be used as a desktop laptop system, albeit a slow one. Right? So compared to your standard desktop laptop, it's fairly, it's slow. It doesn't have much memory. I mean, it has some memory, but compared to a desktop laptop, not a lot, right? So you could use it in that way, but you can also use it as an IoT device, which is how we'll talk about both really in this specialization. Thank you.